Imagine yourself standing on the edge of a crumbling empire, where the land meets the sea, and time seems to move more slowly. The sky is a deepening gray, the kind that only appears when the sun has just dipped beyond the horizon, but hasn't fully given itself to night. The wind carries the smell of salt, of wet stone, of something older than memory. And there, just beyond the rocky cliffs of Britannia's edge, rises a lighthouse ancient, proud, and lonely. The year is somewhere near the beginning of the 5th century. It's built by Roman engineers when Britannia was still flush with new roads and garrison towns. It had once been a symbol of Roman order, its flame-guiding merchant ships and military vessels alike. In the other, he holds a bundle of dried moss and thin twigs wrapped in oiled cloths his kindling. At the top, the chamber is quiet, except for the hush of the wind and the occasional cry of a seabird flying too late. From here, he can watch the waves turn silver under the moon. Water drawn from the stone cistern downstairs, where it stays cool even in the warmer months. He chews slowly, not because he is hungry, but because it gives his hands something to do while the night wears on. The fire crackles softly, a kind of heartbeat for the tower, but still, he stays. Not for loyalty to a fading Rome, but because the lighthouse must be kept. Someone must be the last. Sometimes he sees the faint outline of a ship, a trader, perhaps, still daring to cross from Gaul. He leans back in his chair, wrapping his cloak more tightly around him. The air grows cooler as the night deepens, but he feels comfort in the routine. It reminds him of the stories he once heard from sailors of sea spirits who follow the light. Of distant islands where the gods sleep. He does not believe in such things, but neither does he disbelieve. When you live alone for so long, the line between the real and the imagined becomes pleasantly thin. Old Roman songs, not the kind sung in theaters or triumphs, but the simple ones mothers might sing to their children. He does not need to see the sea to know it is still there. He does not need to see the flame to feel its warmth. In this moment, on the edge of what was once the greatest empire in the world, there is only silence and salt and light.
Oh.
The notes are low and slow, almost like chanting. There is no one to hear them but the wind and the fire. Other times there is nothing but water and sky, blending together into one great, endless hush. He remembers the sound of boots on stone, the scent of fresh bread from the baker's stall, the laughter of children running near the forum. He remembers, too, the slow change, the merchants who stopped coming, the garrisons that thinned, the officials who left and never returned. He kneels, sets the bundle beneath the great brazier, and lights the flame. The cry of gulls in the early morning. It's the low whistle of wind before a storm. If one day someone from the mainland will arrive and take his place, or if the tower will simply grow cold after he is gone, he does not know. He does not need to. His world is not the empire anymore. His world is this flame, this tower, this night. The strange, soft lap of high tide against the rocks. To others, these are just noises. To him, they are the language of the place. Start small, no more than a whisper, before growing into a soft, steady glow. Instead, stray dogs, a few wandering villagers, and silence have taken their place. The waves whisper and hush, like the breathing of something vast and old, a temple now used as a storehouse, a bathhouse that fills with rain. The great mosaics, once bright and clean, now bear the marks of weather and time, still beautiful but faded, like memories from a childhood now far away. Now the harbor is quieter, the ships fewer, yet the flame must still be lit, for in the darkness, even a distant, forgotten light can still guide the lost. Rome, once a sprawling empire that claimed the known world, has begun its long retreat. The legions have mostly gone home, recalled to defend the heart of an empire now struggling to defend itself. The grand roads are still here, though many are cracked and moss-covered. The villas remain too, though some have been left to vines and wind. Yet, one light still burns on the coast. One man remains behind, keeping the fire alive in a place the empire has begun to forget. His name is not carved in marble or remembered in song. In truth, it is not entirely clear what his name was, though some say it might have been Lucius or perhaps Marcus. Others whisper that he was simply known as Custos, meaning the keeper, but names matter little now. What endures is the rhythm of his life, slow, watchful, full of quiet purpose. Each night, as the sky darkens and stars begin to blink open above the sea, he climbs the narrow, worn steps of the lighthouse tower. The stones beneath his sandals are cool and smooth, polished by decades of footsteps, his own and those who came before him. His cloak, once Roman red, has long faded to the color of dust and smoke. He moves with practiced ease, not out of urgency, but out of habit. For him, lighting the beacon is not an act of duty to an empire. It is simply what must be done. The lighthouse itself is older than him, perhaps older than his grandfather. He carries a brass lamp in one hand, its flicker reflected faintly in the polished bronze that decorates the narrow stone walls. There is no applause, no company. Only the slow dance of firelight on old stone, and yet this moment feels eternal. Once the flame is secured, the keeper settles into his chair near the southern window, the one that looks out toward the open sea. He eats little, a crust of bread, some cheese wrapped in waxed cloth. Below, the old Roman town sleeps, or what remains of it. The streets are no longer patrolled by soldiers in polished armor. The keeper remembers a time when he was a boy, and Roman banners still flapped proudly along the roads. He doesn't blame them, understands the tides of empires, how they rise and fall like the sea he watches each night. Outside, the wind shifts slightly, bringing with it a scent of seaweed and distant rain. The kindling pops in the brazier. There is a kind of peace in watching things pass. In the quiet, he sometimes hums the melodies he learned as a child. As midnight approaches, the light from the flame casts a soft circle across the waves, a kind of golden thread stretching out into the black. The tower creaks faintly as the sea air presses against its old stones. The keeper listens, not with fear, but familiarity. Every sound here has a meaning, he wonders, sometimes if others will come. And so the hours pass, not in rush, but in gentle procession. The stars wheel overhead in their ancient rhythm. Fire burns steadily. He closes his eyes for a moment, not to sleep, but to listen. And the keeper, alone but not lonely, watching over it all. The night carries on, not with sudden changes, but in the same slow rhythm that governs the sea. The waves rise, fall, and rise again, whispering against the rocks below like a lullaby. The flame in the tower is far stronger, steady and tall, casting long shadows across the upper room. He watches for a while, then lets the matter go. The food storage began to run low, but he learned to adjust. His hair, once thick and black, turned silver and then white, blending with the sea mist that curled around his shoulders each morning. His hands, once strong from lifting barrels of oil and hauling rope, became slower, lined with years of labor, but still sure in their work. Not in the grand, carved-in-marble sense, but in the smaller, quieter kind. And the iron fittings on the upper lantern have rusted slightly, tinged orange by the salt air. Not much more than a cot, a woolen blanket, and a shelf with a few precious things, a chipped cup made of clay, a knife with a handle worn smooth, and a small figure of Mercury, the Roman god of travelers. He does not worship in the way the temples once instructed, but the little statue comforts him all the same. But he likes to imagine that somewhere far away, another keeper stands by another tower, lighting his own flame, watching the same stars. He does not feel tired, exactly, not in the way a younger man might feel after a long day. The stars fade, one by one, until only the faintest remain, like a closing curtain. The light from the tower begins to dim against the coming day. He knows the fire must be lowered soon, the wick dampened, the oil covered, the room made safe for morning. He will descend the stairs as he always does, step by careful step, his hand trailing along the stone wall. But each one mattered, each one kept the darkness at bay, just a little longer. The day begins again. And though the empire may fall, and the maps may change, the light will remain. And in the heart of that light, even as the empire withdraws and the world shifts, there is a kind of hope, quiet, patient, enduring. It is a deeper kind of weariness, like pages being slowly turned in a book that is almost done. Not unpleasant, not frightening, just inevitable. No bells to ring the shift change.
Out.
Only the whisper of the sea and the cry of gulls returning from their night flight. They do not know each other, but perhaps they are alike. Men who remain even when the world moves on. Perhaps it is not the god that matters, but the memory it holds of times when the world felt more ordered, when things had names and boundaries, when the roads led somewhere. The stairs creak, more than they used to, but still, they hold. The fire bowl at the top, a wide metal basin blackened by countless nights of burning, is cleaned each morning, even when no one may ever see it but him. A small act of care, of defiance against time. He wonders whether anyone someday might find the things he has left behind. That kind of thought belongs to senators, to generals, to poets. He is none of those things. He is simply present in this place, at this time, and perhaps that is enough. His tools arranged neatly in a wooden chest. A logbook bound in leather, its pages filled with notes about wind patterns, passing ships, phases of the moon. His thoughts written in the margins, never elaborate but honest. Storm tonight. Flame needed more tending. Or no sails for 3 days. Cold wind from the west, once many winters ago, dreamed of Rome. Forgot the faces. Sea gave him fish when the weather was kind. The nearby woods offered berries, mushrooms, and firewood. And the villagers who still lived in the nearby ruins, descendants of Roman settlers and native Britons alike, would sometimes leave small gifts near the path to the lighthouse. It glows, a steady golden heartbeat in the dark, a clay pot of broth, a bundle of dried herbs, a loaf of barley bread wrapped in linen. The stars were here before Rome, and they will be here after it. They are faithful in a way the empire could never be. They mark time more truly than any sundial or calendar, and they ask for nothing in return. No words exchanged, no thanks expected. Just a quiet understanding between those who endured. Whether it is a ship or just the moon reflecting on the waves, it changes nothing. He does not signal. He does not prepare for visitors. Not anymore. They rarely come. The keeper remains by the window, his eyes half closed now. His thoughts wandering not with urgency, but like leaves drifting on the surface of a calm river. Orders would arrive from officials with wax-sealed scrolls, supply logs, duty schedules, occasional correspondence from the mainland. There was even once a young assistant who stayed for a season or two, eager and bright-eyed, asking endless questions about the machinery of the light and the ships that passed by. But one spring, the boy left to return home, and no one came after him. Somewhere in the distance, a faint light flickers near the horizon. Might be a ship, though it's hard to say. Once, in his early years at the lighthouse, messengers would ride in from inland villas. That was long ago now. The messages stopped. The supply wagons came less often, and then not at all. He grew older, as the tower did, weathering years and seasons like stone. And through all of it, the flame remained. Steady. Familiar. Sometimes, during particularly still nights, he reflects on the idea of legacy. The tower itself tells its own story. Moss grows now between the stones on the north side. Down below, the keeper has carved a small space for sleeping. The fire above flickers gently, its reflection dancing across the curved glass of the tower's lantern. It does not blaze, does not roar. Outside, the clouds begin to part, revealing stars in numbers too many to count. He often marvels at the sky, even now. The keeper sometimes wonders about the people across the sea, in Gaul, in Hispania, in Italia. Was not heard from them in many years. He shifts in his chair, the sound of old wood against stone echoing gently in the round room. As dawn begins to bleed into the sky, pale and slow, the horizon softens, and yet even as the new day approaches, he does not rush. Time is no longer a command, but a companion. There are no trumpets to sound the hour. In this quiet, you can almost hear the ancient world exhale. The last lighthouse keeper does not think of himself as heroic or noble. He does not consider whether history will remember him. The flame has burned for so many nights now, it is hard to count them. As the first light of morning brushes the stone walls in a wash of pale gold, the keeper stands, wraps his cloak around his shoulders, and begins his descent for one more night, and perhaps another after that. The wind along the headland has changed again, carrying a saltier sharpness now, touched with something that whispers of distant weather. It has been several days since any ships passed. The old man at the tower marks this only with the faintest of notes on a strip of parchment tucked beside the brazier. No sails. Third day. Quiet affirmations that the rhythm of his world continues, still shaped by the stars, the tides, the wind. What had once been a modest but well-appointed coastal outpost, complete with tiled bathhouses, a market square, and a shrine to Minerva's, now slowly melting into the earth. Wildflowers bloom between the crumbling columns. Moss creeps along mosaic floors. Walls tilt slightly under the weight of years, yet the keeper does not mourn this. He wakes before the sun, listening first for the sea, not for its loudness, but for its tone. A calm sea hums low and even. A troubled sea hisses, restless against the rocks. Today the sound is middle-toned and ease, but not angry. Inspects the cracks in the tower's outer wall with a practiced eye, stuffing dried moss into the largest ones to keep the wind from whistling too harshly. He tends the small herb garden he built years ago, tucked into a wind-sheltered alcove beside the base of the tower. Sage, rosemary, bitter lettuce. He no longer grows much, but enough to flavor his meals and calm his belly. He rolls from his cot, his joints stiff but familiar, and begins his morning round. Here, he sits on a smooth rock-worn concave from years of use and watches the waves. He does not think, not actively. He does not need to. The sea is thought enough. He moves without haste, one hand always on the wall. The smell of old oil and char still lingers, comforting in its way. He kneels before the brazier and begins the evening's work scraping ash, checking the copper vents, arranging the kindling with fingers that know every groove and notch. The flame once lit flutters briefly before catching. It grows in slow pulses, steadying as the bowl warms. The climb is long, but familiar. A spiral that coils gently upward through the body of the tower, like the inside of a seashell. The tower was built to bear witness, and so he bears witness. His lantern casts a soft amber light on the stones, turning their pockmarked surface into something warm, almost golden. The lighthouse flame reflects on the water in long golden threads. Somewhere in the east, a faint streak of cloud glows with the light of a hidden moon. They drift like kelp in the shallows, brushing gently against each other, tangling briefly, then floating free. He remembers a dog he once had, a shaggy creature with ears too big for its head. It burns like memory warm, flickering, imperfect, but present. A reminder that something once was, that something still is. It used to follow him up and down the tower stairs, always wagging, never tired. It died long ago, buried near the garden, under a stone now covered in lichen. He still speaks to it sometimes, in the quiet when the wind is low. It fills the space in his mind with something steady, like a breathing presence that has no need for words. It is simply what happens when people leave and nature returns. That perhaps even now, it carries the echoes of Roman officers barking orders, of merchants shouting prices in mixed Latin. The stars blink back into view, one by one, forming patterns so ancient they have no beginning and no end. He murmurs their names softly to himself. Arcturus, Vega, Deneb. Learned them as a boy, from a father who traced them in the night sky with a calloused finger. The names do not matter anymore, but the speaking of them comforts him. It faces the sea. The same sea, always different. Always the same. Its cry cuts briefly through the silence, sharp and high, before fading back into the air. He follows its path until it disappears toward the inland hills. Life still stirs out there. Villages still smoke, cattle still graze in green valleys, but they feel very far away, and breathanic tongues of children laughing as they chased each other along the tide line. The keeper says nothing. He only listens. North breeze. Clear moon. He does not write for others anymore. These notes are not reports. They are small rituals. When he was younger, he would go once a month, trading sea salt and cured fish for bread, cloth, or dried peas. The people mostly leave things for him by the outer path, beneath a flat stone he lifted long ago. They do not knock, they do not linger. They know he is there watching, even if unseen. It is an arrangement born not of fear, but of mutual understanding. He is part of the land now, like the standing stones or the tide pools. Down below, the remains of the Roman town lie hushed. In many ways, he is more a part of this quiet land now than the Empire ever was. His days follow a rhythm that is both precise and soft-edged. He will clean the brazier later, after the air has warmed a little and the birds begin to call. He washes in the basin, using water collected from the cistern, cold and metallic on his skin. No soap anymore, just handfuls of mint and pine needles crushed together for a clean smell. He prepares a simple meal. Porridge from barley stored in a clay jar, sweetened with dried crabapples, left by a local boy 2 days ago. He eats slowly, sitting on the stone bench by the window, watching the sky bleed orange at the horizon. The morning is not rushed. It is never rushed. The fire upstairs has long since burned down 2 coals, safe and low. Most days pass in similar ways. He checks the ropes that secure the shutters. Around midday, he walks the narrow path to the cliff's edge where the land drops steeply into the sea. He imagines, sometimes, that the sea remembers all who have stood here before him, that it holds their voices in its deepest trenches. Today, a hawk circles above, riding a thermal that curls up from the rocks. The lighthouse keeper has not visited the town in some time, not the ruins by the harbor, or the scattered homes farther inland. The days are quiet, and the nights even quieter. As the sun lowers once more into the west, the keeper begins his slow ascent to the tower's crown. At the top, he opens the hatch and steps into the lantern room, and then, as always, he sits. The chair is plain, built from driftwood lashed with old rope, softened with a folded woolen cloth. He does not expect ships. He does not expect visitors. And yet each night he lights the flame. Out of habit, but because it is what he has been called to do, not by Rome, not by duty, but by the place itself. The sky darkens now, gradually, like ink spilling gently across a parchment. Far below, the tide creeps higher, brushing the rocks with soft sighs. He sips from a wooden cup water with a sprig of mint, cold and clear. It wakes him gently. The keeper leans back, not to sleep, but to rest. His thoughts are not busy. The fire crackles again softly, the wind shifts, and the keeper watches. The flame does not blaze. It does not shine with drama. The stars have settled into their quiet watch above the lighthouse, scattered across the sky like flakes of silver on dark velvet. The flame, now fully kindled, hums low in the brazier, casting slow-turning shadows across the lantern room. It is neither bright nor dim, but just enough to be seen from far across the water, a gentle signal for no one in particular. The feel of damp sand in his boots, the way the tower had loomed, tall and silent, with its stairs echoing his first hesitant steps. Keep it lit, that's all. Keep it lit. The man who handed over the keys, older than he was then, with a look that suggested he'd already made peace with being forgotten. The roads had been clearer, patrolled now and then. Messengers rode past once every few weeks, bringing parchment sealed in red wax and bearing the eagle crest of the empire. The keeper breathes in the scent of the burning oil, rich, familiar, with just a hint of salt carried in from the sea through a narrow gap in the window's edge. A sea breeze curls up around the tower, rattling the shutters with a sound like a sigh. Ebrisham, far to the north, where generals once spoke of empire and destiny by firelight, he never went, never needed to. The tower kept him. The keeper does not stir. His hand rests lightly on the stone ledge beside him, rough with salt, cool to the touch. It is a scent that belongs only to this place, to this one tower on this wind-bitten cliff. Through rain and fog, through winters so cold that the stones sweated frost, through summers thick with mist and insects. Not as they were, perhaps, but in the memory of the land itself. The silence here is not empty, it is full. He adds a pinch of dried sea kelp to the brazier trick he learned long ago that helps the flame burn steadier in damp weather. The kelp hisses faintly, then settles. It muffles the sounds of the water, dampens the air, makes the world feel smaller and closer. The keeper finds these misty nights comforting. Wrapped in fog, the tower becomes an island unto itself, detached, floating, timeless. Full of small sounds, layered softly on top of one another, the fire's low breath, sea's patient murmur, the wind's ever-changing tune. Together, they form a kind of music, one that asks nothing, one that soothes, that beneath the moss and silence, the stones remember footsteps, the walls remember voices. He will sleep soon, not for long, just enough to rest, enough to keep the flame steady through the last hours of darkness. Just a few words softly placed into the room, as if tucking them beneath a blanket. The tower creaks gently around him, the way old things do when they are settling in for the night. At the base, he pauses, listens again to the wind, now softer, carrying the faint call of an owl from the inland trees. Still burning, he might say. Or no sails tonight. Or simply good. Perhaps the tower, too, remembers every flame it has ever held. Every storm it has faced. Every keeper who sat in this chair, watching this sea. He imagines a ship, small and battered, finding its way through that blackness. Seeing the glow of the lighthouse and adjusting its course, ever so slightly. He imagines a sailor glancing up, seeing the flame, and feeling a flicker of relief. The firelight upstairs filters down through the tower's narrow windows in thin bands, like sunlight through deep water. Through the slow withdrawal of Rome's presence, and the slower quiet that followed, he has lived with it so long that it has become a part of him, just as the sea air has etched its story into the stone walls around him. Sometimes, especially on still nights like this, the keeper recalls his arrival, hear not the grand moment, but the smaller details. Or perhaps they are meant for the tower itself, for the fire, for the night. The villa's wall crumbled long ago, its painted rooms opened to the sky. The world beyond the lighthouse has faded like old ink on weathered parchment. You'll be the last, most likely, the man had said, without bitterness, only certainty. And he had. There had been others nearby than soldiers at the watchpost to the north. Fishermen along the inlet, a villa with a high wall and tiled floors. Now, there are no messengers, no patrols. The roads are nearly gone, overtaken by grass and gorse. And yet in the lantern room, the light still burns. Below, the tide has reached its furthest touch, licking the base of the cliffs with quiet persistence. He allows his thoughts to drift toward the mainland, to the great cities he once dreamed of visiting. Londinium, with its bustling forums and carved statues. He imagines sometimes that the cities are still alive in some way. He is not lonely. Not really. Now and then he speaks aloud, not often, not loudly. These words are not meant for anyone. He looks again to the sea, dark and endless. It reflects no lights but his own, and even that fades as the waves stretch outward. Even if no such ship exists anymore, even if no sailor is watching, the keeper takes comfort in the imagining. The firelight flickers once, and he leans forward slightly, checking the oil. There's enough to carry the light until morning. He sits back again, exhaling slowly. The sea mist begins to roll in now, soft and slow, curling around the base of the tower and climbing in thin ribbons. He can feel the weight of sleep begin to gather in his limbs, not pressing, but inviting. Before he rises to prepare for sleep, he stands once more at the window. There, through the mist, he sees a flicker. It might be lightning, far out at sea, or a reflection, or perhaps a ship. He watches for a long moment, body still, breath held. The flicker does not return. The horizon remains dark. But he smiles. Whether it was real or not does not matter. The flame is burning, the night is calm, and the world continues its slow, quiet turning, descends the stairs, his steps careful and measured. He pours himself a final cup of water, sits on his cot, and stretches out beneath the woven blanket. As he closes his eyes, he breathes in once more that familiar scent of oil, salt, stone, and wind. The sea keeps its watch, and so does he. For another night, the fire has burned steadily through the night, its rhythm like a slow heartbeat at the top of the tower. Outside, the sea has shifted tone again, less restless now, more contemplative, as if it too is remembering something distant. In the lower chamber, where the stone walls are thicker and the air warmer, the keeper stirs. The first light of morning presses softly against the narrow window slits, turning the shadows to a paler gray. He does not open his eyes yet. Instead, he listens. There is no reason to rush, but also no reason to linger. He can feel it in the warmth that lingers in the stone. That warmth is enough, has always been enough. The rhythm of his life is not measured by urgency, but by the quiet assurance that each moment will come as it must. To the tower, to the sea, to the sounds of a world that no longer changes very much. He shifts under the coarse wool blanket, then slowly rises, his movements careful and deliberate. The man had walked the tower stairs like a march, always with a purpose, always with a story tucked behind his weathered face. The fire upstairs has not failed. He knows this without needing to check. As he prepares his morning meal, barley once more, a scrap of salted fish, and hot water with crushed fennel seed, he allows his thoughts to wander, drawn gently backward. There are days now when memory takes hold more easily than it once did, as if the past lives just beneath the surface of each stone, each breath of sea air. It's for the coast, the people inland. It's so they know someone is still watching. He remembers the man who trained him. He had been young then, barely a man, with hands still unscarred and knees that didn't ache. The mist has retreated inland, leaving the sea in soft, glistening blue. No sails in sight. He had arrived eager, full of questions about how the tower worked, what the fuel mixture should be, how often to clean the lens, even the rare dignitary vessel, tall and colorful with painted sides and banners fluttering. The orders that arrived came less frequently. Pairs that were promised were never made. And then one spring, the orders simply stopped altogether. The empire, vast and sprawling, had finally loosened its grip on this small edge of the world. In those days, he had recorded their arrival on a wax tablet, noting cargo and crew where possible. Some of the crews spoke Latin, others Brythonic dialects thick with consonants. A few only nodded, communicating with gestures and coin. But the older man had smiled, patient. A former soldier, lean and sharped, who had grown tired of war but not yet tired of discipline. "You light a fire," he had said on that first night, "but it isn't just for ships." The keeper had nodded. "It's not the light that matters most," he'd said. "It's the keeping." That phrase, simple, firm, had stayed with him ever since. The sandals he wears on warmer days are of a Roman pattern, taught to him by a traveling cobbler who passed through long ago. The tower itself is Roman design by their engineers, built by their hands and aligned by their stars. Now, as he sits with his cup of fennel water steaming gently in his hands, the keeper speaks it aloud to the morning. There's a soft patch of brightness near the wall, where the warmth lingers longest. He drags his stool into it and sits for a time, his legs stretched out before him, his thoughts quiet. It's the keeping. A ritual of sound and movement like a slow prayer. A man with a red-trimmed cloak, mounted on a horse that gleamed with well-brushed hair. He still has it somewhere, though he rarely wears it now. And sometimes, if you're very still, you can hear it dripping. The pin carries the symbol of a lighthouse flame cradled in a Roman eagle's claw. A strange combination, he had always thought. There had been music pipes and drums and a crowd of villagers, some cheering, others only watching, quiet. But the flame remains. The markings have faded, worn by time and the occasional scrub of cleaning cloth. Still, he traces them with his finger. A record not for anyone else, but for himself. The keeper, younger then, had stood by the tower and saluted. The governor had nodded back. Not the light, not the stone, not the name of the place, but the quiet act of holding something steady. Outside, the gulls begin their circling above the cliffs, and now lingers in the stones, in the steps, in the quiet watch of the last lighthouse keeper. He does not mind. There were many more ships once, traders from Gaul, coastal fishing vessels, but even then, traffic was thinning. Rome had grown distant, not just in space, but in feeling. He walks to the tower door, opens it slowly, and steps into the sun. The keeper had waited for months, watching the road that curved up from the coast, but no one came. The sea below is calm, the waves moving in slow pulses toward the rocks. He walks the path to the cliff again, where the land gives way to sky and water, yet the tower still stood, and he remained. That first year without orders was the hardest. Not because he feared abandonment, but because he feared forgetting the names of the constellations. The rhythm of the fire. It's a careful sequence of nightly maintenance. So he began speaking the steps aloud as he performed them. He still does this now, even though he remembers every step by heart. Clean the basin, check the oil, feed the flame, watch the sea. The memory of Rome lingers not in great events, but in these small repetitions. The coins he uses to weigh down loose parchments still bear the emperor's face, though the nose is worn smooth. But the empire is gone. Only its shape remains, like footprints left in drying mud. The keeper does not mourn it. He watches the light shift on the stone floor as the morning sun rises, and here the past returns in slow ripples. He sees again the procession of a Roman governor passing through the region decades ago. That same day, the keeper had been given a small bronze pin as recognition. The eagle is gone. It is this quiet persistence that comforts him most. History does not vanish all at once. It seeps away slowly, like water through a cracked cistern. He looks to the wall beside him, where he once scratched the names of each year as it passed, then the Roman count, then later the local reckoning. Proof of the years, proof of the keeping. Midday draws closer now. He stands and stretches, the stiffness in his knees more pronounced. The wind brushes his face like an old friend's hand. Here, he closes his eyes and lets the sun warm his face. He listens to the distant cry of a seabird, the creak of the tower door swinging gently behind him, the soft rustle of grass swaying in the breeze. And beneath it all, faint but present, the echoes of an empire that once stretched across the world. The keeper returns slowly to the tower, his steps measured along the narrow path. The sun is higher now, casting the stone walls in gold and shadow. The doorway greets him with the familiar groan of wood and hinge, a sound he has come to know not as where, but his voice a quiet acknowledgement, a whisper of welcome. Inside, the air is cooler again, tinged with the scent of warm oil, moss from the lower walls, and the faint metallic trace of old tools. He lays his hand briefly against the curved inner wall as he walks past, fingers tracing the groove where his lantern once knocked against the stone decades ago. Back into the earliest stories told to him in his youth. He had imagined it often, the eternal city, even though no one he knew had ever seen it. It was a place woven from words, stitched together from the stories of passing merchants and the half-remembered fragments of old songs, and a kind of respectful distance, as though it were a flame too bright to look at for long. How many still hold in their minds the image of Rome, even as its statues fall, its banners fade, its languages blend and change, its paint is nearly gone, the features worn smooth, but the shape is still unmistakable. It had been buried in the mud beside a rusted chain and a broken buckle. He imagines it once rested on a soldier's shelf, perhaps in a barracks room or a traveling cart. Now, it watches over the fire with him. He runs his thumb gently across the base, where a few letters are barely legible. The mark remains a quiet indentation in time. There had been warmth in those stories, but also sadness because even then, even in the telling, it was clear that something had already been lost. The boy walked inland without turning back. The keeper watched until he disappeared beyond the ridge. Up the stairs again, one slow step after another, his feet landing where they have always landed. The tower remembers his body. No one came to shutter it. No one gave orders to leave. They can live in the hands of a boy lighting a fire, in the silent ritual of tending a brazier, in the slow, quiet persistence of a man who watches the sea long after the reason for watching has been forgotten. The Latin of his youth has been softened, reformed, absorbed. The keeper opens the shutter of the upper window just slightly, letting in the light and with it the smell of the tide returning. The traders and travelers who pass through now, if they pass at all, speak in ways that twist familiar words into new shapes. Sometimes he understands them. Beneath the tower, the sea foam is catching in rocky pools, turning to silver in the slant of the light. Sometimes not, but he listens kindly. He offers bread and fire. He gestures, and they understand. And so, the keeper has remained not because he was told to, but because nothing else ever made more sense. The room glows gently with warmth, and outside, the horizon stretches on quiet, unchanging, and full of everything that has ever been. Its stones have shaped themselves around his habits, just as he has been shaped by their unchanging presence. At the top, the fire has burned low, but steady. He crouches, feeds it more oil with a gentle hand, and stirs the basin slightly with a polished iron rod. The flame flutters, stretches, and steadies again, its soft orange light dancing against the curved glass panels. With a calm that anchors him more than any stone. In that short week, they shared more silence than speech, more gesture than grammar. The boy helped feed the fire. He He watched the sea as though it were a stranger he had only just met. His boat had broken on the rocks below, and he had scrambled ashore, soaked and shivering. The keeper had found him at dawn, collapsed beneath a bent tree near the cliff's edge. Beyond the tower's windows, the sea still waits, still watching, still moving. And in this moment of quiet care, the keeper's thoughts drift further than they usually do past the training, past the governors and travelers. He thinks of Rome as a boy with a place of roads and pillars, where marble glowed under the sun and fountains never ran dry. He remembers sitting at his father's feet while the man repaired nets, listening to tales of Rome's founding, its legions, its greatness. His father had never spoken of Rome with bitterness, only with awe. Now, the keeper wonders. How many others sit alone now on other shores, remembering the same stories? He lifts a small carved figure from a wooden shelf, by the fire a tiny bust of a Roman officer, fashioned in clay and once painted. He found it long ago, near the collapsed edge of the road north of the tower. The flame flickers again. He adjusts the wick. For all its power, Rome never sent word that the tower should be abandoned. He has lived long enough to watch language itself shift around him. There was once a boy more than 20 winters ago who stayed at the tower for a single week during a violent storm. The boy spoke no Latin, but he spoke with his hands. When the weather cleared, the keeper gave him a small loaf, a flint, and a nod. Sometimes he wonders what became of him. Sometimes he imagines the boy became a keeper himself of another tower. On another forgotten shore, where the fire still burns and the stories are still remembered. That is the thing about stories. They do not need to be written to survive. It is afternoon now, and the sun glows soft against the western sky. He hears the distant call of a gull again, a familiar voice. Perhaps the same one from this morning, still tracing its lonely loops above the cliffs. He smiles faintly. There is no need for new stories. The old ones are enough. He sits once more beside the fire, the little clay bust resting in its place. He remembers something the older keeper once said, long ago on a similarly quiet evening. The world will forget the names, he'd said, but not the light. The keeper believes this, deeply. He leans back, closing his eyes just for a moment, and the memories burn ungentle and undisturbed as, steady as the flame. There is a particular kind of silence that lives near the sea. It is not empty. It is not still. It breathes, moves with the tides. It lingers between the soft break of waves on the rocks and the distant calls of birds passing overhead. It fills the spaces between sounds like mist curling between stones. He wakes to the natural quiet of early morning, broken only by the faint sigh of the sea and the whisper of wind through the cracks in the shutters. This silence is not something he fights against. It does not play music to fill it or speak to disturb it. Warm water, barley soaked soft from the night before, crushed herbs from a small leather pouch, bay leaves, sometimes mint, sometimes rosemary if he's lucky enough to have some dried. His meals are small, carefully preserved. The dry salted fish from the last trader is still holding up well. He slices a thin strip with the short, blunt knife he has had for decades, and lays it on the warmed flat stone beside the hearth to soften. No frying, no sizzling, just slow warming. A preparation, not a performance. It is a companion, a constant one. They nod at each other from a distance. Sometimes the keeper offers a wave, and the shepherd, if close enough, might call a single word of greeting in a language half familiar. Then the sheep move on, and the figure becomes small again against the green and stone. This is the silence the lighthouse keeper knows best. It is not filled with yearning or ache. It is simply quiet, deeply, entirely quiet. Stones once fixed were now scattered, pools deepened or filled. Even the path had changed slightly, as if the land itself had shifted in its sleep. But the fire had survived, and so had he. He adjusts the shutters in the stairwell, letting in just enough brightness to warm the upper rooms without bleaching the tapestries that hang near the fire. Those old cloths, stitched in a language older than Latin, were left behind by a traveler, who had stayed for a week and then vanished. There's a leak in the western wall he patched last spring, and he checks it again today, running his fingers gently over the mortar. It holds the stone here is rougher, more weathered. The original Roman work has been patched many times over the years with whatever materials he had at hand. Bits of coastal stone, lime, fragments of abandoned roof tile crushed into powder and mixed with ash. The work is uneven but strong. The symbols are unfamiliar to the keeper, but he likes them. Their shapes are curling and delicate, like wind-blown branches or flowing water. He sometimes wonders if they are prayers, so they are peaceful ones. He watches the way the lichen spreads across the stones near the north wall. The world slows. The keeper moves with it, without resistance. There is no urgency. The tasks are few, but they are constant. Clean the lamp chamber, not forgotten, but no longer called upon. Inspect the steps. Refill the oil. Prepare the bedding. He notes which birds come first in the morning and which disappear by dusk. He observes the sea with the quiet dedication of a scribe recording, not in parchment, but in memory. A small vessel, oar-powered, hugging the coast. A fisherman, perhaps, or a trader, trying his luck on waters few now travel. They rarely come ashore. The tower is seen, the fire acknowledged, but that is enough. A signal passed without words. There is only what he can build, what he can shape from the world around him. That too is enough. There is no schedule he must obey, no overseer, no crowd. When it burns too hot, he knows to open the flue a little wider. When it flickers low, he closes the outer shutter just enough to calm the wind. The fire is not just a tool. It is a presence one he lives beside, not unlike a companion who never speaks but never leaves. Just the rhythm of the flame, the sweep of clouds, the changing angles of the sun. These quiet repetitions are the spine of his life. The fire had sputtered twice in the night, smoke drawn down the flue by the strength of the wind, nearly snuffed out. But he had stayed with it, crouched in the dark upper room with his cloak wrapped tight and his hands shielding the flame until the worst had passed. The tower had held. It always had. He can feel the change in pressure hours before the weather turns, can smell the shift in the air long before the clouds arrive. This is not magic. It is just a tension, cultivated through years of watchfulness. It carries the scent of the sea up the cliff and curls it around the tower walls. He leaves the door ajar to let it wander in, mixing with the stone and salt scent that always clings to the hearthroom. He does not wake to alarms or bells. Most of his days are spent in tasks that ask for attention but not urgency. He begins the morning again with his simple routine. Outside, gulls tumble in the wind. The breeze is low to daze, steady, not sharp. The track that runs past the tower is faint now, overgrown in places, eaten at the edges by grass and salt. Once, messengers rode that path on horseback, cloaks snapping in the wind. Sandals pressed with Roman iron. Now it is a line of memory in the earth, barely visible unless you already know where to look. This tower, this life it, is not prison nor sanctuary. It is simply what remains. There are days when not a single other soul passes by, so the keeper does not expect company. He does not look for it, but neither does he fear it. On rare occasions, a shepherd will appear on the edge of the cliffs, guiding a small group of sheep who seem just as surprised to see the tower as the man himself. This life at the edge is not lonely in the way one might expect. The keeper fills this silence with small acts of observation. He knows the sea's moods, its slow swells and quick tempers, its low, murmuring tides and sharp, biting storms. He remembers a great storm many winters ago, a deep, howling gale that battered the tower so fiercely the stones themselves groaned under the pressure. In the days after, the shore was different, scarred, reshaped. Such storms are less frequent now. Perhaps time softens their memory. Either way, he does not dwell on them. The sun shifts overhead, and with it, the light in the tower moves. His own prayer is simpler. Keep the fire burning, keep the tower standing. He tends to small repairs in the afternoon. When something breaks now, there's no cart arriving with fresh tools. No blacksmith to request hinges from. No storehouse with spare wheels or pulleys. The fire, as always, draws him back. By late afternoon, he returns to it once more, checking its base, adjusting the airflow. He has grown deeply attuned to its mood. He watches the horizon again. There are no sails today. But sometimes, when the weather is just right, and the sky is painted with the thin gold of evening, a shadow might appear. Sometimes he waves, sometimes not. Either way, the fire speaks on his behalf. As the day begins its slow descent into dusk, the air thickens with the scent of moss and salt. This is life at the edge. Not of the world, but not apart from it either. And in that quiet space, between memory and forgetting, the lighthouse keeper continues. One step, one breath, one night at a time. The sun is lower now, its golden light brushing gently across the uneven stones of the tower's floor. The keeper watches how the shadows stretch across the room, long, thin, and peaceful, like fingers reaching toward memory, neither fully day nor yet evening. It is a kind of pause between the world's breaths. The birds grow quieter, the sea softens. Even the fire seems to burn with a gentler rhythm. There is no sound but the occasional rustle of fabric and the distant murmur of waves. It's not large, just a narrow opening shaped from the original Roman design. Made for defense more than beauty, but it offers a view he has always cherished. He remembers exploring it as a child with his older cousin, climbing its collapsed walls, pretending to be senators and soldiers, imagining the lives of those who had once lived within its walls. He lets it sit quietly in his chest, like a warm stone held in both hands. It carries the scent of the incoming tide, briny, fresh, and slightly metallic. The keeper breathes it in slowly, eyes half closed, each turn, each squeak, each curve. At the top, the lantern room greets him with its familiar orange glow. The fire has burned well today, steady, calm, as if it too understands the slow dignity of this life. They had whispered the names of emperors Augustus, Trajan, Hadrian as if invoking gods. The wick is trimmed, the oil checked, the flue adjusted to match the changing air pressure. These gestures are second nature, no rituals, not chores. One by one, small, gentle points of light appear, some familiar, others new. He does not name them, not aloud, but he knows their places. Their arrival is like the return of old friends, quiet, dependable companions. They center him, anchor him. The boy had stood silently for a long time, then whispered, "It looks like the sun never left." A pinch of salt and a splash of warmed water. Whether on the edge of empire or in the center of a city, whether a boy lighting a torch for the first time or a man keeping a flame alive for the 1000th night, it is the same need, the same offering against the dark. It is simple, nourishing. He eats with deliberate slowness, listening to the crackle of the small fire in the stone grate beside him. He moves to the small wooden bench beneath the narrow window. From here he cannot see the sea, but he can hear it. The long, rhythmic hush of the tide brushing against stone, the occasional pop of water in the crevices below. The land below fades into shadow. The sea becomes a dark sheet, shifting slowly in the wind, because that is what he does. Because that is what this life, this tower, asks of him. There is something about this hour, this slow melting of day into night, that asks nothing and gives everything. Some said the design had been of Neptune, or perhaps a hunting scene. No mission, no crown. Only the steady keeping of a flame, the careful tending of space and silence. He never knew for certain. By the time he was old enough to notice, most of it was already lost. He will grind more herbs, mend a patch in the wall, oil the gears of the winch. He will write a few lines in the leather-bound book he keeps by the fire, not a journal. Exactly, but a collection of observations, weather notes, bird sightings, things he sees and hears. What remained was enough only to suggest beauty, like the melody of a half-forgotten song. From here, he can see the slow roll of the hills inland, the same land he once walked as a boy before the tower became his home. In the far distance, just on the edge of vision, the ruins of an old villa crumble under ivy and time. Have lived in this room as long as he has. Some belong to the keeper before him. This was many years ago, so long. The keeper is not sure if he still recalls the soldier's name. He had been polite, perhaps 17, his armor still too large for his frame. He had brought dried figs as a gift, a rare kindness. Some he made himself. The wood is worn smooth by time and touch. Each object carries memory, not as burden, but as presence. This part of the day is the keeper's favorite. Takes a seat by the small window on the north wall. That villa had once been the heart of a Roman farmstead. Now, even the stones barely remember those names. But in the quiet of this moment, the keeper does. He recalls the tiled floor of the villa's main room, fragments of red and blue. Tiny pieces of glass and clay, arranged into patterns that once told stories. The memory brings with it a wave of calm. Outside, the wind picks up slightly, whistling through the upper beams of the tower. He stands, stretches gently, and climbs the spiral stair once more, careful not to disturb the quiet. The steps are smooth from centuries of feet. He tends it again, not out of need, but out of care. As he finishes, the first stars begin to pierce the soft blue above it. He lingers a moment longer in the lantern room, the fire behind him, the stars ahead. When he finally descends again, he carries the light with him, not the flame itself, but the sense of it, the warmth, the quiet purpose. Back in the hearth room, he prepares his evening meal, bit of dried fruit, more soaked barley. His tools are all within reach: oiled cloths, a stone bowl for mixing resin, a pair of wooden tongs for lifting the hot basin when necessary. Once, a young soldier stationed nearby had asked to see the tower's light. The keeper had let him climb the stairs, had shown him the chamber and the fire. It was a simple phrase, but it has stayed with him. There is something about light, about fire, that connects all lives. Now, as night deepens and the room softens into shadow, the keeper sets his bowl aside. He closes his eyes. There is no great ambition here, and yet, somehow, it is enough. Tomorrow, he will rise again. He does not expect anyone to read them. That is not the point. Just as the flame burns whether or not a ship passes, just as the stars shine whether or not a soul looks up, so too does the keeper tend, record, and remember. And as the night settles deeper and the wind slows its whispering, the keeper remains steady, warm, and quiet. A single flame watched over by a single soul. A life lived in the silence between waves. The air has shifted, not sharply, not with any storm or signal of sudden change, but slowly, gradually, like an old melody played a little more softly each evening, until the listener begins to notice what is no longer there. The kind of silence that I senti, simply the absence of sound, but the quiet left behind when something once constant fades. Fewer birds, less chatter from passing patrols. The roads inland had once echoed with the clatter of carts, the call of merchants, the slow, steady rhythm of boots on stone. The keeper felt it first in the silence. It wasn't unusual at first. Sometimes roads washed out. Sometimes political messiness inland delayed even the most necessary things. The keeper had long learned patience. But as the days passed and the pattern did not return, he began to wonder, not with fear, but with the calm recognition of something changing now. Only stillness. But the world around it had grown quieter, softer, like an ancient theater emptied of its actors. Its voices now only imagined, flickering faintly on the walls. The lighthouse, like all remote Roman structures, had been built to last and survive. The lighthouse, faithful as ever, still stood. Its tower straight, its windows clean, its fire tended with the same reverence as always. Lines about the villa and the hills. Thoughts about the boy who once climbed the tower to see the flame. A dream he remembered from years ago, in which the sea had turned to glass and ships floated silently above him. Minor repairs approved, harvests reduced, expect less grain. Sometimes a line or two from the provincial governor. Still he wrote them gently, as one might whisper to a sleeping friend. His life had been lived far from the rush and noise of cities. The sky pink with the closing of another mild day. And there, just on the southern horizon, he saw a ship. He did not seek crowds or news or movement. But even the most solitary life is still at its edge, tied to others. Occasionally, a folded note from a soldier he once knew. One morning, perhaps a week ago, perhaps more, no supply cart came. But out of something more personal, something like farewell, not much remained. Just a few sheets he had saved from years ago. Most were creased. One had ink stains, but they would do. The world doesn't end, the man had said, pulling his cloak tighter. It just keeps walking away. The rocks below the tower were slick with early dew. What mattered is this. For as long as I could, I kept the fire burning. A mist curled along the cliff's edge, soft and low like a sleeping animal. The keeper walked along the perimeter, as always, checked the foundation, the walls, the fire door. All was well. It was built to guide ships to tell them where the land begins and the rocks lie hidden. I did not flee. I remained until the last oil ran dry, until the last ember dimmed. Because even when no one watched, the flame still had meaning. I do not know if ships still come, but the fire still burns, and I still tend it. Still it stores barley, water, salt, enough oil for many more nights, tools, blankets, firewood. But the letters never came either. The small satchel that used to arrive, always modest, often delayed, had once carried short messages in neat Latin, inspection rescheduled. Now, only the sea spoke. The room was warm, almost too warm, and yet he didn't leave it. He sat beside the flame, eyes half closed, hands open on his lap. And instead of resisting, it simply waits, softly, quietly, like a leaf letting go of its branch. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Perhaps not even in this century. Now I give it back to the sea and the sky. It spoke, as always, in soft, repetitive rhythms. The keeper wasn't a man of panic. He started writing more in his journal. Not facts, not observations, but memories. These words, he suspected, would never be read. He added a few lints a list of herbs he had grown near the base of the tower. A brief mention of the falcon that once nested in the eaves. A final note, a place dry, hidden, safe from rain and salt. A place meant for secrets. Some days later, though, dates began to feel soft and slippery. He climbed the tower at dusk, as always. The wind was slow and dry. Not a merchant vessel, not the sturdy galleys of Rome. Smaller, leaner, painted differently. It did not come close. It turned north, following the coast briefly, then disappeared behind the haze. He lit the fire that night with a deeper focus, not out of anxiety, not even out of duty. He remembered something he had once been told, long ago, by an old veteran who had passed through the lighthouse for one night of shelter during a bitter winter. The keeper hadn't understood then, but he thought he might now. The next morning, the sea was calm, but something in the quiet told him this was not a regular day. He spent the afternoon gathering parchment. He began to write not to the provincial office, not to a superior or command, but to whoever might find it, he began. To the one who finds this, I was the keeper of this light on the edge of the world. My name matters little, the dates matter less. His hand was steady, his Latin modest but clear, he continued. This tower was raised before I was born. It will likely stand after I am gone. If you find this, know that I did not leave. I watched the tides rise and fall. I counted the stars. I remembered names long forgotten, not because they were mine, but because someone should. Underscore this, perhaps, is what the light is for. Not warning. Not glory, but memory. If you are reading this, the tower may be quiet, but it was once full of life. A fire lived here. A man watched over it. He stopped there for a while, not because he was finished, but because the words had begun to carry weight, not heaviness, but finality. The fire that night burned longer than usual. He fed it more generously, knowing the oil wouldn't last much longer. He did not sleep much. There are some nights when the body understands that something is ending. As dawn arrived, cool and gray, he returned to his writing. I leave this place not in sorrow, but in stillness. I was never its master only, its guardian. He rolled the parchment carefully, wrapped it in oiled cloth, and placed it inside the hollow of an old beam near the tower's southern wall. Then he returned to the fire one last time. The days grew shorter, and the sun's path dipped lower along the horizon. The keeper felt this change in his bones, a quiet settling, a gentle winding down. The wick glowed with the same amber warmth, but the keeper knew the end was near. Sometimes his thoughts drifted to the lives that had passed through this place. The sailors who glimpsed the fire from storm-racked seas, the messengers who climbed the spiraling stairs to deliver letters, the ancient Roman engineers whose hands had shaped these stones, and still he did not hurry. Time here was patient, folding back on itself like the waves that met the shore. The warmth spilled gently into the cool night air, and the sea reflected the light like a mirror. The sea's whisper remained constant, but the world around the tower seemed to lean into a softer rhythm, as if preparing for a long rest. Each morning, the fire flickered a little weaker. The oil supply dwindled with deliberate care. Every drop measured, every flame nurtured. He spent hours seated beside the hearth, hands tracing the grain of the wooden bench, eyes watching the dance of shadows on the stone walls. He moved slowly, savoring each step, each breath. His body carried the weight of years, but his spirit felt light-rooted, steady, peaceful. This light is my message, my gift, my memory. Let it burn in the quiet, long after I have gone. In the quiet, he imagined their voices soft, distant, like echoes carried on the wind. One evening, a calm settled over the land and sea, as though the world held its breath. The sky was painted in pastel hues lavender, pale gold, and the faintest blush of pink. The keeper leaned at the window once more, gazing into the infinite calm. The keeper climbed to the lantern room, carrying a small oil lamp with him, a remnant from days when the main fire was tended from below. The silent guardianship of the flame was more than a duty. It was a conversation across time. Then it softened, shrank, and finally vanished, not with a shout, but with the hush of a candle's last breath. He lit the lamp carefully, placing it near the large glass windows that had kept the flames safe for centuries. As he stood there, he felt a profound connection, not just to this moment, but to all the moments before. The flame was not merely for guiding ships or marking danger. It was a beacon of hope, resilience, and remembrance. A quiet promise that even in solitude there is purpose. The keeper whispered a farewell not to anyone in particular, but to the tower, the sea, and the slow turning of history. When he descended, the oil lamp remained alight, casting a gentle glow over the worn floorboards. He took his journal from the bench and read the final lines he had written the night before, words that felt like a soft song. The flame flickers, but it does not falter. It waits, patient and enduring, like the sea waiting for the dawn. Outside, the stars had multiplied, shimmering like scattered diamonds against the velvet sky. With a gentle smile, he closed his eyes. The last oil was used the following night. The flame, true to its nature, burned slowly, steadfast, until the very end. The tower remained, silent, still, watching over the endless sea. It's somewhere in the gentle turning of time. The keeper's story became part of the endless rhythm, the fading echoes of light and shadow, of flame and silence. Imagine yourself standing on the edge of the Roman world, where the land meets the vast, whispering sea. The lighthouse, once alive with flickering flame and the steady hands of its keeper, now rests quietly beneath an endless sky. Instead, it remained a sentinel in stillness, its windows catching the soft light of dawn, its walls breathing slowly in the rhythm of the tides. But this tower, perched at the boundary between land and sea, kept its place as quietly as a stone in a riverbed. The stones worn smooth by centuries of wind and rain hold stories like faint echoes trapped in their very core. After the keeper's last watch, the tower did not crumble. It did not fall silent in defeat. Some called it a relic, others a monument. Fishermen knew it as a landmark, steady and reliable, even without a flame. The sea continued its eternal dance, and the tower watched in moving, yet deeply present. The world beyond it was changing. Empires rose and fell, languages shifted like sands. The people who once tended the fires moved on to other places, other lives, and the heart might find a gentle pause. She had heard tales of the last lighthouse keeper, of the hidden message left in the hollow beam. With patient hands, she searched the tower, tracing the curves of the walls and the corners of the rooms. These small tokens became part of the tower's tapestry, woven into the slow rhythm of centuries. For many years, travelers spoke of the tower in hushed tones. The ink, though faded, still held the keeper's calm, measured words. She read aloud softly, her voice barely more than a breath. The seasons passed in their endless cycle, the sharp chill of winter frost, soft embrace of spring rains, the golden hush of autumn leaves. Moss crept slowly along the stones, and tiny flowers bloomed in crevices where dust had settled. And so the story of the last lighthouse keeper traveled far beyond the cliff's edge, entering the realm of memory and legend. What mattered is this: for as long as I could, I kept the fire burning, feel the cool breeze brushing your skin, hear the distant call of seabirds settling in for night, and see the sky painted with gentle shades of twilight. Each layer of time added to the tower's quiet dignity. Occasionally, pilgrims or wanderers would arrive, drawn by the stories whispered among coastal villages. The wind sang softly through the broken glass panes, carrying stories in its fold, stories of light and loneliness, of duty and quiet endurance. They would climb the spiraling stairs, feeling the rough stone beneath their hands, pausing to listen to the faint sigh of the sea through the open windows. These visitors did not come in search of spectacle or grandeur, to let the rhythm of the sea and stone soothe the edges of your mind. The tower is still here, waiting. Watinia, silent guardian of stories, whispered across time. They came seeking calm, a place to sit, to breathe deeply, to feel the gentle pulse of history beneath their fingertips. Some left offerings, a carved figure, a pressed flower, a written prayer folded carefully into a nook. Yet the tower's greatest gift was not in its stones or relics, but in the silence it offered a space where the restless mind might quiet. One day, many years later, a scholar arrived, carrying a bundle of papers and a worn leather satchel. When she found the parchment, carefully preserved in its cloth, she unfolded it slowly. To the one who finds this, I was the keeper of this light on the edge of the world. My name matters little. The dates matter less. The scholar felt a deep stillness settle around her, as if the keeper's spirit was present, watching over the tower once more. She took the parchment with her, carrying it to distant libraries and quiet rooms filled with books. But back at the tower, the stones held steady, embracing the cycles of sun and storm, tide and time. Imagine yourself there now, standing at the base of the tower as the sun dips low. This place where history and nature meet invites you to breathe slow and deep. The tower's legacy is not measured in grand battles or sweeping empires. It is found in the quiet moments like the soft brush of wind through olive trees, the slow drift of clouds over a distant horizon, and the steady pulse of the sea against ancient stone. Long after the last keeper's footsteps faded, tower remained a symbol not just of guidance or vigilance, but of endurance. It was a reminder that even in solitude, there is purpose. Travelers still pause to rest against its weathered walls, to hear the seas gentle him, to feel the weight of time and memory wrapped around them like a soft shawl. New villages rose nearby, and old roads faded beneath wild grasses. The stories of the Roman world became threads woven into the fabric of countless lives, spoken softly by parents as lullabies, whispered in the quiet hours before sleep. That even in silence there is meaning. The air is cool and filled with the scent of salt and wild thyme. Breathe in deeply, feeling the calm settle through you like a gentle tide. Generations came and went. It became a place where the past and present met in quiet conversation, where the flicker of a flame long extinguished still glowed in the hearts of those who remembered. The lighthouse stood sentinel, a constant presence in a world forever shifting. In this way, the tower became more than stone and mortar. Imagine yourself once more at the foot of the tower, the sky darkening into night, stars beginning their slow dance across the heavens. And as you listen, you realize the light never truly went out. It lives on in stories told softly, in memories shared quietly, in the gentle rhythm of waves and wind that carry the last lighthouse keeper's watchful spirit across the ages. May this peaceful place hold you now as you drift slowly toward rest. As the tower stood silently through the centuries, nature began to reclaim the land around it in gentle, deliberate ways. Imagine yourself walking slowly along a narrow, winding path that leads to the lighthouse, your footsteps softened by moss and scattered pine needles. Not one of fire or flame, but of memory and stillness, radiating softly into the surrounding landscape. Its walls thick with the scent of aged limestone, and the faint traces of salt spray seemed to hum with the stories of those who built it, tended it, and found refuge within its shadow. They are the silent keepers now, their lives unfolding in the gentle cycles of nature, their rhythms as steady and unhurried as the tides themselves. The air here carries a delicate blend of salt from the sea and the earthy aroma of damp stone and wild herbs. The tower, once a bright beacon slicing through fog and night, now holds a quieter kind of light. Each step a whisper, each sound a gentle reminder of the endless passage of days. The tower listens to the murmurs of history, while the land cradles the memories like a cherished secret. The fading light casting long shadows that stretch and bend around the tower's base. The horizon blurs gently, as if the world itself is sighing in quiet contentment. The tower stands firm behind you, its silhouette etched against the twilight, a steadfast presence in a world slowly settling into night. The breeze carries the faintest hint of jasmine, mingling with the salt air to create a perfume both fresh and timeless. Together, they form a rhythm that is slow and steady, soothing like the gentle ebb and flow of the tide. Around the base, wildflowers sway gently in the breeze's delicate white blossoms, the soft purples of heather and the pale gold of grasses that rustle like whispers. Small creatures, once cautious of human presence, have returned in peace. A pair of doves coo softly from a nearby olive tree, and the occasional rustle in the underbrush betrays the quiet passage of a fox or hedgehog. The tower's silent watch continues, a lullaby sung by wind and waves, gentle promise that through change and stillness alike, something enduring remains. Here in this place balanced between earth and sea, the tower is watched over not just by time, but by the creatures who share its solitude. In the cool mornings, dew gathers on spiderwebs stretched between the branches of low trees, catching the pale light and sparkling like tiny jewels. The keeper's footsteps have long faded, but the imprint of his presence lingers, like a soft breath left in the air, felt but unseen. The tower's spiral stairs, once so carefully climbed by hands steady and sure, now host a chorus of gentle sounds, the tapping of a woodpecker, a flutter of wings, the murmur of wind slipping through cracks in the stone. Imagine tracing the worn steps with your fingers, feeling the smoothness where countless hands have brushed, the cool stone still carrying the faintest warmth from the afternoon sun. In this quiet, you sense the intertwined dance of past and present. As the sun dips toward the horizon, the sky transforms into a soft canvas of pinks and blues. You pause at the edge of the cliff, gazing out over the calm sea, where the water mirrors the sky's changing hues. In this moment, you feel the comforting weight of history, the endless patience of stone and sea. The night deepens softly around the tower, folding the world into a blanket of shadow and quiet. The stars emerge one by one, their light cool and steady like distant watchfires scattered across the sky. His presence, though no longer visible, lingers like a soft glow beneath the surface of the world, an echo carried in the breath of the wind and the quiet heartbeat of the sea. His eyes steady and patient, scanning the horizon for signs of ships, for the faintest shimmer of danger or hope. His voice low and measured, speaking softly into the night air, not to hurry or alarm, but to keep company with the vast, eternal sea. Imagine yourself seated on a smooth stone just outside the tower's base, the air rich with the scent of salt. The keeper's life was a rhythm of tending and waiting, a meditation in light and shadow. Each flame he nurtured was a beacon of care, a soft hand reaching out to guide others safely home. But the light of his watch remains, glowing quietly within the stillness, a gentle beacon guiding you toward rest. And earth, the gentle sound of waves lapping far below. In this stillness, the echoes of the last lighthouse keeper's life rippled gently through time, as subtle and enduring as the tide's slow rhythm. The keeper's watch became an unseen thread running through the centuries, a silent song of endurance and hope. It is a lullaby not of noise or haste, but of steady presence and calm assurance, the kind that eases the restless mind and quiets the wandering heart. You might imagine the keeper's hands calloused, but careful tracing the edges of worn wood, the flicker of his lamp casting long, gentle shadows along the stone walls. There is a sacredness in this quiet vigilance, a deep connection between man, stone, air, and water that transcends the passing of days and years. Over time, that care wove itself into the very fabric of the tower, into the moss that clings to its stones, into the whisper of the wind through its empty windows. Now, as you sit in the cool night, the tower before you bathed in the silver glow of moonlight, you feel the weight of that song settling gently within you. The sea continues its endless murmuring, the stars keep their silent vigil, and the tower stands a quiet guardian of light, memory, and time. And so, as your breath slows and your thoughts drift softly like clouds across a twilight sky, remember this: the last lighthouse keeper's flame may have flickered out. The twilight hours settle softly over the coast, the horizon blushing with the last light of day.
Imagine yourself standing at the edge of the cliffs, where the earth falls away gently to meet the endless whispering sea.
The breeze carries a cool, briny scent mixed with the faintest hint of wildflowers, delicate and almost forgotten. Each step worn smooth by the steady passage of keepers who moved carefully, deliberately, tending the flame that guided weary sailors through dark, stormy nights. Imagine the rhythm of their lives. The quiet tending of oil lamps, the gentle brushing of soot from glass panes, the steady gaze cast out across restless waves. The tower stands nearby, a solemn silhouette against the fading light, its stones touched with the rosy glow of the setting sun. His hands, steady and sure, rest lightly on the stone ledge. The quiet grandeur of the Roman coastline stretches out in every direction, a landscape of rugged cliffs. Soft grass is swaying in the breeze, and the wide open sea stretching far beyond the edge of sight. There is a calm acceptance in his posture, gentle surrender to the passage of time, to the cycle of light and dark, to the endless watch that defines this place. The glass windows, once streaked with salt and rain, catch the last glimmers of twilight and scatter them in gentle prisms across the stone floor. Shadows stretch long and thin, reaching out like fingers of dusk, inviting rest and reflection. The scent of damp earth rises faintly, mingling with the salt and the sweet hint of blooming time. It is a place of quiet sanctuary, a bridge between past and present, between the restless human heart and the eternal rhythms of nature. The colors of the sky deepen into rich indigos and velvety blues, studied now with the first star-stiny points of light that promise the vastness of the night to come. The tower's walls, thick and time-worn, hold the warmth of countless days beneath the sun. Its voice is steady and patient, never hurried, weaving through the stillness with a grace that mirrors the slow unfolding of the night. The waves kiss the shore in gentle rhythms, their breath mingling with the wind that whispers through the tower's empty corridors. The rough texture under your fingertips speaks of centuries of wind and weather, hands that built and maintained this sentinel, perched on the edge of the world. The faint echo of footsteps long past seems to ripple in the quiet air, as though the tower itself breathes softly, alive with memory. As the light dims further, you can almost hear the subtle creak of the old wooden stairs inside the tower, the spiral staircase winding upward to the lantern room. Tonight the lantern room is empty, yet the spirit of vigilance lingers in the air like a soft, comforting presence. Below, the sea murmurs softly, a constant lullaby of ebb and flow. You might imagine the last keeper here, standing quietly by the window, its eyes tracing the horizon where sky and sea dissolve into one. The world beyond the tower shifts and changes, but here at this moment, all is still. Air cools gradually, wrapping around you like a soft shawl. In this gentle twilight, the tower becomes more than stone in history. As you stand there, feeling the slow pulse of the world's turning, you might sense the delicate balance held here, the delicate dance of light and shadow, of presence and absence, of memory and forgetting. And so the tower waits, embraced by twilight, holding its silent vigil over the edge of the Roman world. As night falls fully, the sky deepens into a velvety black, sprinkled generously with stars that twinkle softly like distant lanterns. Imagine yourself seated near the tower, the cool stone beneath you steady and reassuring. The air is now cooler, carrying the quiet scent of sea salt mixed with the faintest trace of night-blooming flowers, delicate and almost hidden in the dark. The lantern room, now empty of flame, is a sacred space where countless nights of watchful quietude were spent. Though the light has faded, the essence of vigilance remains, like a comforting shadow wrapped softly around the tower's heart. The tower's silhouette stands tall and still against the vastness of the night, its outlines softened by moonlight, the stones almost glowing faintly, as if absorbing and reflecting the calm of the night itself. The night stretches endlessly, a vast canvas where time slows and breath deepens. The last lighthouse keeper's watch continues in the quiet moments. In the soft murmur of waves and the whisper of the night wind, the tower and the sea, the stars and the breeze, they form a gentle chorus, singing a lullaby meant just for you. The ancient walls seem to breathe gently in rhythm with the whispering waves far below. A slow, measured pulse connecting earth, stone, and sea. Inside, the spiral staircase falls silent, yet the echoes of those who once climbed it linger like a distant melody-steady footsteps. Ah! A whispered breath, the soft clink of oil lamps being tended. Imagine the quiet moments before dawn, when the world is still wrapped in sleep. The quiet is a balm, inviting your thoughts to drift slowly, like leaves carried on a gentle current. The tower's presence, steady and enduring, is a reminder that some lights do not shine with fire, but with quiet strength and unspoken promise, that through darkness, there is always a watchful eye, a guardian, waiting. The sea's gentle murmur, the occasional call of a night bird, the faint rustling of leaves in the breeze, create a lullaby soft and unhurried. The sky begins to shift imperceptibly, the first hints of pale blue brushing at the horizon, promising the slow return of daylight. The keeper, long gone, would have known these moments well, the stillness between night and morning, when the world seems to hold its breath. His watch was marked not by excitement or fear, but by steady care and patience. Every small action, from lighting the flame to cleaning the lens, was part of a ritual that connected him to the vast sea and sky, and to those who relied on his light. Outside, the wild grasses sway gently in the night breeze, and the scent of damp earth rises softly from the ground. As you settle deeper into the calm, you might feel the weight of centuries lift, replaced by a serene stillness. And now, as your eyes grow heavy and your mind begins to wander into the gentle realms of sleep, remember this place at the edge of the Roman world. May this peaceful sanctuary hold you now, as you drift slowly, gently, into rest. The land around the old lighthouse has changed in countless ways, shaped by time and nature's steady hand. Imagine yourself walking once again along the worn path that curves around the cliffs. The soft crunch of gravel underfoot blending with the distant murmur of the sea. The air is cool and fragrant with wild herbs, sage and rosemary mingling with the salt carried by the breeze. Each step feels slow, deliberate, as if the land itself encourages a quiet pace. The tower remains steadfast, a silent witness to the slow turning of centuries. Though its flame has long since faded, its story continues to ripple gently through time, carried on the wind like a soft melody. The tower's presence is a steady anchor in this quiet world, a reminder of the unbroken rhythm of light and shadow, of watchfulness and rest. Imagine tracing their curve with your hand, feeling the cool stone beneath your fingertips. The space feels sacred, a quiet sanctuary where light once danced and flickered against the dark. The world beyond is vast and mysterious, but within these walls, there is a calm certainty, a deep connection to the sea, the sky, and the countless souls who relied on his light. Each sound is part of the tower's lullaby, a song of patience and peace that carries you gently toward rest. His watch was not marked by grand gestures or loud proclamations, but by steady care and quiet endurance. Though the lamp no longer burns, its memory lingers here like a soft glow, a testament to the quiet strength required to hold a watch through the long, dark hours. These steps have borne witness to countless nights of quiet vigilance, each one a link in a chain of care stretching through the ages. Let these gentle rhythms carry you softly, like a gentle tide, toward the peaceful realms of sleep. Though empty now, the stairwell still holds the faintest echo of footsteps. Soft, measured, patient. The tower's story is one of quiet strength, of light held against darkness, of watchfulness and care that never faltered. Around it, the world whispers of change and endurance trees sway with a steady rhythm. Waves lap endlessly against the rocky shore, and the stars wheel silently above. The sea breathes steadily below, its voice a soothing murmur that fills the quiet spaces between your thoughts. The tower stands tall and silent, a guardian of time and memory, its presence a balm for the restless heart. You might imagine the countless lives touched by the tower, as Glotha's sailors who found safe passage through storm and darkness. Their light is cool and steady, casting a gentle glow that reflects on the calm surface of the sea. The horizon blurs softly, as if the world itself is sighing in quiet contentment. The air carries the faint scent of damp earth and sea spray, mingling into a fragrance both fresh and timeless. The villagers who watched anxiously from the hills, and the keepers themselves, whose steady hands ensured that light would not falter.
In these sounds,
There is a profound stillness, a peaceful continuity that feels like a soft embrace for the soul. The tower, though weathered, stands firm, a symbol of enduring watchfulness and calm. Each story is a thread woven into the fabric of this place, creating a tapestry rich with quiet courage and care. The echoes of history ripple softly here, carried by the gentle elements the sea's constant song. The rustle of grasses, the distant call of night birds. As twilight fades into night, the sky above deepens into a velvet expanse studded with stars. You might pause here, taking a moment to breathe in this serene scene, to feel the weight of centuries settle gently around you, like a warm shawl wrapped softly in the evening chill. Inside the tower, the spiral stairs remain, worn smooth by countless feet. In the lantern room above, the glass panes catch the moonlight, scattering it gently across the stone floor like scattered stars. Imagine the last keeper here, standing quietly in the moonlit room, his gaze steady on the horizon. As you sit with these thoughts, the sounds of the night surround you, the gentle sigh of the wind through the trees, the distant crash of waves against the rocks, the soft rustle of leaves. The stars wheel slowly overhead, their light cool and constant. In this place, at the edge of the Roman world, history and nature intertwine in a dance as old as time itself. As you breathe deeply, feel the slow rhythm of the world around you, the steady pulse of earth and sea, the soft rustle of night, the distant shimmer of stars. As the night deepens, a profound stillness settles over the tower and the surrounding landscape. Imagine yourself leaning gently against the weathered stone wall, the coolness of the surface grounding you in the present moment. The sea's rhythmic pulse hums quietly beneath the distant stars, gentle cadence that mirrors the slow beating of your own heart. Inside the tower, the last keeper's footsteps have long since faded into silence. The spiral staircase coils upward silently, and the lantern room waits patiently, empty yet full of stories whispered on the wind. Yet his presence lingers like a soft shadow and imprint of dedication, patience, and quiet watchfulness. Each night was a promise to hold the flame bright, each dawn a quiet triumph of endurance. The rhythm of the sea and sky becomes your own, slow and steady, a gentle tide that carries away the day's worries and invites rest. The flame was not merely a source of light, but a symbol of hope, a steady beacon reaching out to those lost in darkness. The tower stands as a silent guardian, its story a soft echo in the night, guiding you gently toward rest. And may you drift softly into the restful embrace of sleep, held by the steady rhythm of the sea, the stars, and the timeless light of the last lighthouse. The last lighthouse keeper's legacy is not just in the light he tended, but in the calm assurance he offered to the world. You might picture him at the end of a long night's vigil, yet the fatigue settling softly in his bones, yet his gaze steady and calm as he surveys the vast horizon one last time before rest. The sea's voice grows softer now, blending with the distant calls of night birds and the rustling of leaves, and to savor the peace found only at the edge of the world. His watch was not marked by grandeur, but by quiet acts of care. Trimming the wick, polishing the glass, checking the oil, these simple rituals carried immense significance, a steady thread of light woven into the vast dark. Each sound is a thread in the night's tapestry, a comforting murmur that invites your thoughts to drift and your body to relax. His world was defined by these cycles, light and dark, wakefulness and sleep, the ceaseless dance of waves and wind. The tower itself seems to breathe in these memories, its stones warm from the day's sun, now cooled by the evening's gentle embrace. Outside, the stars wheel slowly across the sky, their soft light like a lullaby woven into the fabric of the night. Imagine the keeper's last moments, Hera. Brief pause to breathe in the salt-tinged air, to feel the cool breeze on his face. The world beyond the tower is vast and mysterious, but within this space, there is only calm. As you settle into this peaceful moment, feel the timelessness of the place, the way history, nature, and human care come together in a perfect harmony. Let this calm fill you now, as your breath deepens and your eyes grow heavy. May the quiet strength of the keeper's watch wrap around you like a warm blanket, soothing and steady. As the world around the last lighthouse keeper's tower prepares to rest for the night, there is a deep sense of completion, a quiet closing of a chapter written in stone, sea, and light. Imagine yourself once more standing at the base of the tower. The cool earth firm beneath your feet, and the gentle evening breeze brushing softly against your skin. The air carries the lingering scent of salt and wild thyme, a fragrant reminder of this place's enduring bond with the sea. The sky overhead is a vast, velvety canvas dotted with stars, each one shining steadily as if telling stories of times long past. Though the flame is gone, the glass panes glisten faintly with dew, catching the moonlight and scattering it softly across the stone floor. His eyes are steady, reflecting the starlight as they search the horizon. Not for ships or storms, but in quiet contemplation of the journey he has traveled. The keeper's watch, once a tireless task, is now a silent memory woven into the very fabric of the place. The tower itself seems to breathe this peace, its stones cool and steady, cradling the stories and the spirits of those who came before. The night is still, the air thick with the soothing sounds of nature's lullaby, the soft sigh of the wind, the distant call of an owl, the gentle rhythm of waves meeting the shore. The world narrows to this quiet sanctuary where time slows and breath deepens, inviting rest. The last light has faded, but its glow lingers softly, a gentle promise that even in darkness, there is care and connection. This rhythm is a gentle tide, pulling you away from wakefulness toward the restful shores of sleep. But for now, rest in the embrace of the night, held by the steady pulse of the sea, the stars, the enduring spirit of the last lighthouse, your sea. The keeper's watch is ended, but his legacy remains, a quiet light held in memory, guiding you softly now. The space feels sacred, a silent witness to countless nights of care and vigilance. The scent of damp earth rises softly, mingling with salt and wildflowers, a fragrant comfort that wraps around you like a soft shawl. The stars wheel slowly overhead, their cool light casting delicate shadows that dance gently across the tower's walls. It is here, in this quiet room perched on the edge of the world, that the keeper's legacy truly rests. These points of light shimmer quietly, inviting your mind to wander slowly through the gentle expanses of time and space. Imagine the keeper ascending these steps one last time, his movements measured and calm, each step a deliberate rhythm in the night. The soft echo of his footsteps mingles with the distant sound of waves, a steady harmony that fills the quiet space. The vastness of the night sky contrasts with the sturdy, solid presence of the tower, a timeless sentinel poised between earth and sky, past and present. Within the tower, the spiral staircase winds upward in a graceful, endless curve, worn smooth by the hands and feet of those who kept watch before. Reaching the lantern room, you see the empty frame where once the great lamp burned bright. Imagine the keeper standing by the window, gazing out over the vast, dark sea. This moment, suspended in time, holds a deep peace. As you stand here with the keeper in this gentle stillness, you might feel the weight of centuries lift, replaced by a serene calm. Below, the sea whispers endlessly, a lullaby carried on the breeze. The rhythm of the night, the steady pulse of earth and sea, it's the soft rustle of leaves, the distant murmur of waves becomes your own. As you let this calm fill you, imagine the slow unfolding of dawn to come, the promise of a new day, fresh and full of gentle light. As the night lingers, a subtle shift begins at the horizon. Imagine yourself still by the tower, wrapped in the quiet embrace of the early morning. Shades of deep indigo yield slowly to gentle blues and delicate pinks, the horizon blurring into a watercolor wash of calm and promise. The air is cool and fresh, carrying the scent of salt and moist earth, a quiet perfume that speaks of renewal and the endless cycle of time. The darkness softens gradually, like a whisper melting into light. Imagine the keeper's shadow, long and stretching, cast against the ancient walls, as if he lingers still, quiet guardian, watching the world awaken. The stars, once brilliant, now seem to fade gently as the first pale fingers of dawn stretch across the sky. The sea, which has murmured so steadily through the night, starts to glow faintly, reflecting the soft hues of the awakening day. The tower, the sea, the sky, they remain with you, a soothing presence beside your dreams. Let their gentle rhythm cradle you as you drift softly into restful sleep. The world beyond the tower stirs slowly, the soft rustle of leaves, the distant cry of seabirds, and the whisper of waves blending into a serene morning chorus. The horizon, wide and open, stretches endlessly, a quiet reminder of the vastness beyond and the enduring strength within. The steady light of the lighthouse and the peaceful rhythm of the night carry you softly into a deep and restful sleep. May your dreams be filled with quiet comfort and gentle light, and may you wake refreshed, wrapped in the warmth of a new day. Good night, and sleep well. But with a gentle sigh, a soft closing of a book whose pages are filled with care, light, and watchfulness. His legacy is the calm reassurance that even in the darkest moments, there is a light tending patiently, a presence holding steady. These sounds are gentle invitations, coaxing the mind to rest and the body to ease deeper into relaxation. Inside the tower, the stones begin to warm with the touch of the new sun, and the spiral staircase catches the early light in soft glimmers. Though his watch has ended, the spirit of his care remains, a steady flame hidden in the calm dawn. The tower, once a beacon in the dark, now stands as a monument to endurance, patience, and quiet service. It reminds us that light does not always blaze. Sometimes it glows softly, unseen but steadfast. The gentle awakening of the day brings with it a sense of hope and peace. Imagine yourself breathing in this tranquil scene, the cool morning air filling your lungs, the subtle warmth of the sun on your skin, and the soothing rhythm of nature unfolding all around. The last lighthouse keeper's story comes to a close, not with a flourish. As your eyes grow heavy and your breath slows, carry with you the quiet strength of this place. May the steady pulse of the earth and the endless song of the sea lull you gently, and may the light of the last lighthouse keeper guide you safely through the night. As we come to the end of our gentle journey tonight, I hope the calm of the sea,